Hi everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Legends of the Spire. I'm producer Dave. I'm here on my regulation government allocated exercise. I just wanted to say before we started episode 2, just to thank everyone for their kind words about episode 1 with Jamie Hewitt. It seemed like a perfect place to start with Jamie due to his legendary status with the town and that goal at Old Trafford. So it was great to hear that it brought back lots of happy memories. Episode 2 today is with a player who played about 10% of the amount of games for Chesterfield that Jamie Hewitt did. Jamie Hewitt did just under 500 league games, and the player we've got today did just under 50. But in that time, he captained the 2010-11 team to the League 2 title. So yeah, episode 2, it's a great chat today with Dwayne Mattis. We talked to him from his home in Huddersfield. He's got really fond memories of his year at the club, and we had a really good chat about the players, about taking on the captaincy, injuries, and had a chat about his life before Chesterfield as well at clubs like Huddersfield and Bury and Walsall. He's a really, I didn't know what to expect before I had a chat with him, but he's a really honest, modest chap. He maybe on the pitch was one of the quieter players on the pitch, but after talking to him, I could have talked to him all day, and his character seems like the exact type of guy you'd want in your first 11 for a title-winning team. So here is episode 2 with Dwayne Mattis. Enjoy. If it's all right, we'll just have a chat, like before Chesterfield, and then have obviously a good chat about the season, which was pretty amazing, that like title-winning season. So yeah, you're not far from me actually. I'm over in Leeds. You're in Huddersfield, aren't you? So
yeah, Huddersfield born and bred. So I've always lived in Huddersfield, no matter who I've played for, where it's been. I've always lived in Huddersfield. So yeah, not far from you. 20 minutes from Leeds, so not far at all.
Yeah, and were they like which team did you support when you were growing up? Were you a Huddersfield fan, or were you like a big team fan?
Yeah, my dad used to take me down to watch Huddersfield, to be fair, when I was about 8, 9, 10, just because there was a local team, really. And I'd shown an interest in football. So he said, right, we'll go down and watch Huddersfield Town. And that was down at the old Leeds Road. So I supported them growing up, and then I've always had a love for Liverpool as well. So it's Liverpool in the Prem, and then Huddersfield because they were my local team, really.
Yeah. So which players were your like idols then when you were growing up?
John Barnes.
Yeah.
John Barnes. I used to idolise John Barnes. And that's probably the reason why I supported Liverpool, to be honest with you, because I just love watching him play. Liverpool were the best at that time. And I just fell in love with Liverpool. Even to this day now, I still, love Liverpool, really. So
then you ended up kind of through the Huddersfield Academy, didn't you? And you made your debut when you were like, I was trying to work it out this morning. Were you like 16 when you made your debut?
17, yeah, 17. Yeah, so I'd come up through the ranks at Huddersfield. So I signed at Huddersfield when I was 13 as a schoolboy. And I was always one of the ones where they were a bit unsure about. So if they were signing 8, I'd probably be the last one to get signed out of them 8. Just physically, I was very thin, very skinny. And they weren't too sure about me, but they ended up taking a chance with me all the way through. So when we got to 16, it was either you get released or you get a YTS. It was back in them days. And like I said, I think they signed 8 from our age group, and he kind of says to me, "Oh, a bit 50-50 with you, but I'm going to give you a chance." And then at the end, went to do the YTS, and at the end of the first year YTS when I was 17, I was the first one to get into the first team out of them 8. So It just goes to show in football how quickly it can change. So after being like the last to get signed at 16, I was then playing in the first team at 17.
Do you think that made you kind of work doubly hard then, that you knew that you were maybe just scraped in the last few?
Yeah, I think so. Like all the other 8 were better than me, and I agreed with what the coach said. He said, taking a chance and we're not too sure. I agreed with that because I wasn't too sure myself. But I think just training every day because you go full time then when you get a YTS training, you know, twice a day, and we're doing a lot of weights. It strengthened me up a little bit, and I just seemed to go from the bottom to the top just very quickly. Like you say, I don't know if it was a bit of a, you know, a goal for me to think, right, come on, you're at the bottom, but let's get to the top, a bit of a drive. I just don't know if everything just clicked into place with my body and stuff like that. So, yeah, it just goes to show if there's any young kids watching this, you know, just never give up, because you never know what can happen, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what was it like then making your debut? Because it was against Crystal Palace, was it? You made your debut?
Yeah, it was under Peter Jackson and Terry Yorath, and we'd played in the Youth Cup, they used to call it back then. And it was the first year YTSs and the second year YTSs played together in the Youth Cup. And I was a first year YTS, and I'd done really well in the Youth Cup game. So I think Peter Jackson and Terry Yorath, I think they kind of like the look at me from then. And then it was to the end of that season, a couple of games left, and they couldn't go down and they couldn't go up. So it was just, they were mid-table basically. And you know, Peter Jackson says to me, you're coming with us on Saturday. Make sure you bring a suit. Well, I'd just left school, and you know, I was on £42 a week at that time. I didn't have a suit, so what I wore was my old school uniform. So I had to go into the cupboards. I got my old school shirt, my old school trousers, and my old school shoes, you know, to go to the game against Crystal Palace, and all lads were laughing at me. But you know, it just goes to show how quickly it can go. 1 minute you're leaving school, and the next minute you're playing it first team against Crystal Palace away as well. It was. So we travelled anyway. We stayed at an hotel down there, and we got to the game, and I'm on the bench, and after about 20 minutes, the midfielder gets injured. So I'm warming up. I'm thinking, oh, I'll put somebody else on. So anyway, they called me and said, Dwayne, you're going on. But at that time, at 16, 17, 18, you've got no fear. So I'm like, yeah, come on, man. Well, you know, you just get on with it. It's just like playing football with your mates at that age. So I went on after 25 minutes, 25 minutes. Did it all right, did quite well. We drew that game 2-2. And then we had the last game of the season against Crewe the week after. And then I came off the bench for that as well. So I made 2 appearances when I was 17. So, you know, that kind of just gave me the taste of it. And I thought, yeah, I like this. And it kind of went from there, really.
And then you ended up moving to Bury, didn't you? And you won Player of the Season, didn't you, on your first season at Bury?
Yeah, what it was is that I'd been at Huddersfield a long time, and I think I've been at Huddersfield since I was 13, and I was maybe 21, 22, something like that. And I think it got to the stage where, you know, I'd kind of just lost a bit of, because I'd been there for so long, I kind of got a bit too comfortable.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good thing for the man, Peter Jackson at the time, to say to me, you know what, you've been here a long time. It might be better for you to go somewhere else and kind of get started again. And that's what I did at Bury, really. I left Huddersfield Town, signed for Bury, and I got myself fit. And I had a bit of, you know, determination to prove Huddersfield Town wrong for letting me go. And I went into that season, and I think I'd scored 7 from midfield before Christmas. So I played probably the best football I played in my career, to be honest with you. Just playing really well, box-to-box midfielder, getting stuck in, playing it simple and scoring goals. And I think there was a few teams interested at that point, but I ended up signing a new contract with Bury for a couple of years, I think.
Yeah, and it must be really sad then seeing what's happened with Bury, because they've been torn to pieces, haven't they? And having to reform again.
I mean, I don't really know what's gone on. I haven't really looked into it too much, but yeah, it's really sad because, you know, it's a brilliant little club. With brilliant fans, and they're loyal to Bury. You know, not the biggest club, but you always thought they were behind you. Do you know what I mean? And it's really, really sad because I played a lot of games for Bury, and they'll always hold a part in my heart. Do you know what I mean? So it's just sad to see what's happened to them. But hopefully they've started again now, I see, and hopefully they can work themselves back up the league.
Yeah.
10 minutes played, and after a bright start, Bury mount their first meaningful attack. Dwayne Mattis stabs it in. Bury held their shape. They always looked likely to get a second. Dave Challoner nearly got it. But 1-0 at half-time was a decent scoreline.
And then you ended up kind of a move to Barnsley, didn't you, after that? But I'm right. You nearly ended up at MK Dons. They had a few bids kind of turned down for you. So how did you end up going to Barnsley?
Yeah, you're right. Well, what it was is I was at Bury, and this was the last season I was at Bury, and I was doing really well again. Like I said, I probably one of the best midfielders in League Two at that time. And there was quite a few clubs watching me, but it got to January, and MK Dons, who was in League Two with Bury, made a bid for me, and Barnsley made a bid for me, who was in the Championship. So it was kind of like MK Dons in the same league as Bury, or we'll try and move up 2 leagues. So I think most players in my position would think, right, okay, you're doing really well in League Two, you're confident, you're flying, you're doing really well. Let's go and see if we can, play in the Championship. And that's the reason why I chose Barnsley over MK Dons. It was more because I wanted to test myself at the higher level, really.
Yeah. I suppose it's a bit closer to home as well, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's another thing. I'm a homeboy, you see. So I probably didn't want to, at that time, I probably didn't want to move down to Milton Keynes. And Barnsley's just half an hour over tops for me. So it was just kind of a no-brainer, really, to move a couple of leagues and also stay local. Yeah.
And then you kind of then ended up on loan at Walsall, didn't you? Of which you then ended up signing for them eventually. But what I really wanted to ask you about was I was reading a story about when you broke your leg at Tranmere, and you kind of tried to carry on playing with a broken leg. Can you remember that game?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So what had happened at Barnsley was I went to Barnsley, and what I signed on the Thursday, and then they were playing top of the league at the time, and it was Preston North End on the Saturday. And the manager just put me straight in. I just started that game. But I can tell you, after 20-25 minutes of that game, I was I was feeling dizzy. I didn't know where I was. And it was just the difference between the League Two, where I was doing really well, to the speed and the tempo at the Championship. I struggled massively. And, and it was hard for me at Barnsley because I never really had time to kind of get up to speed in training and then go and play in a game. I was just kind of shoved straight in.
Yeah.
So I just struggled really, and the fans took a dislike to me and started, giving me abuse and stuff like that, and then that messed with my confidence, and it was just a bit of a bad time really at Barnsley. But so I was then playing in Barnsley reserves, playing really well. I think Barnsley must have put out a memo or whatever saying that Dwayne Mattis is available for loan. So actually Millwall and Walsall came in for me, but again, Walsall is closer to me. Millwall's down London, so I chose Walsall. So I went to Walsall. First 4 games, I think we won 4 out of 4. So they had some really good players at the time, and went on to have good careers. And then the game that you're talking about at Tranmere, it was a Friday night. I'll never forget it. It was a Friday night. This was the 5th game out of the 5 that I played for Walsall on loan. And it was first 10-15 minutes and gone up for an header, and I've just kind of clashed legs with the midfielder, and I've landed, and I kind of thought nothing of it. I kind of thought, it feels a bit weird. So I've stayed down anyway, and the physio John Whitney's come on, and he's kind of felt it, and he can kind of feel the crack. But I wasn't in any pain really. It just felt a bit weird. So he's like, he says. He wasn't too sure, but he says, give it a couple of minutes and we'll see. So I've carried on for a couple of minutes, and it was just still feeling very, very weird. I just knew something wasn't right, but I wasn't in excruciating pain. So I came off, went and got a scan. He said, yeah, you've broken your leg. You're going to be out for basically 5-6 months. So it's just all a bit weird, really. And then I went back to Barnsley, did rehabilitation there. And then signed for Walsall in the summer. Then
must be like injuries generally, and obviously like during Chesterfield, like your latter time at Chesterfield, you had a operation on your ankle as well, I think, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like mentally, how tough is it when you're going through those injuries? Because it's hard when you're getting paid to do something that you then can't do because you're injured.
You just feel worthless really when you're injured, because the team's out there playing, and you want to be out there playing, but you can't. They'll go out training, you can't train, and it's just hard when you're injured. But you just got to try and stay strong, Do what the physios and the fitness coaches say to get fit, and try and get fit as soon as possible. But yeah, I always had little problems with my ankles anyway. So the injury at Chesterfield, when I got operated on it, it was just niggling at me all the time. So I decided to get in and flush it out. But it still wasn't quite right after that anyway.
How is it now? Do you still kind of have problems with them now?
Well, no, not really, because this is like nearly 10 years ago now, to be honest with you. So I think my body's had time to kind of, recuperate and kind of heal itself. And now I'm fine now. I go on runs with my son, we go on bike ride, we play football. And, I'm fine. I don't have any problems really. But I think some players, struggle after football with injuries and the body and stuff, because they haven't given it time to just recuperate and kind of, get itself back to normal after a long career, really.
And then I suppose we come to the bit that we're wanting to talk about, since it's a Chesterfield podcast, and that you then signed for Chesterfield, and it was like a drop down a league, wasn't it, when you signed? Because Walsall were League One, Chesterfield were League Two.
Yeah.
What did you have other options as well? Was it a decision between a few clubs?
Well, what it was is that I signed for Walsall. I've been at Walsall for 2 years. And in the last season, I was actually captain at Walsall. And I finished second in the Player of the Year votes. So I'd had a good season at Walsall. So at the end of the season, the manager calls you in. I was out of contract, so he called me in. And I'm kind of expecting him to offer me a new contract, really. I've just bought the house that I live in now. I bought a couple of more the year before. So I kind of think, he's gonna offer me something. He might not offer me the money that I'm on now, but he's got to offer me something. I'm captain. So we goes in office, and he just basically said, it was Chris Hutchins. He just basically said, we're not going to offer you nothing. So I'm like, all right. I've just had a good season. I finished second in fans player at year. You've made me captain. And he kind of didn't really give me a reason. He just says, we're not going to offer you nothing. He says, I wish you all the best in the future. And that's it, basically. So,
you try and argue your case while you're in there? I suppose
not really. It made up his mind for whatever reason it was. I don't know whether it was a money thing. I don't know if he knew. He wasn't happy with me travelling from Huddersfield to Walsall every day. I know he wasn't happy with that, but he never said that was the reason. He just never gave me a reason. So I were a bit flabbergasted, really. So, like I said, I've just bought this house that I'm in now, and I were a bit worried, really, because I'm out of contract. I'm coming up to 30. I was coming up to 30. I was thinking, what if I don't get a new club? What if I don't get a club? And then a couple of days later, John Sheridan rung me. So it was only a couple of days, so it was basically straight away. And he said, come and meet me. He said, went to Saltergate, actually. He said, come to Saltergate, come and meet me. We want to sign you. So I went there for a meeting a couple of days later. And he just basically said, look, we've just finished outside the playoffs. I think he said that's the season, that season. He said, we've got some good players, but I want to add 4 or 5, players from, higher leagues like yourself, just to add to what we've already got. And I think we're going to play nice football. We're going to win the league, and we're going to a new stadium. So I'm like, right, okay. So the decision was whether to sign straight away. He said, you can sign now or tomorrow. So the decision was whether to sign straight away and get my future sorted, and then I can have a nice summer and not worry about anything, or whether to wait to see if a League One club came up. So I came home, I spoke to the family, spoke to my mum and dad and whatnot, and we all agreed, you know what, new stadium, young manager, wants to play nice football. They just finished outside the playoffs. It's still quite local to home, more local than Walsall anyway.
Yeah.
So I just decided to think, right, okay, let's just get it all sorted, get signed, and then I don't have to worry about anything over the summer then. And that's what I did, really. I think Bradford came in a couple of days after that, but I'd already give John Sheridan my word that I was going to sign. So once I give somebody my word, that was it, really. So like I said, a couple of days later, I went back to Saltergate, signed the deal, and then I was able to go on holiday and enjoy my summer then.
Yeah. And did they take you around to the building site of the new ground or not? Did you drive
No,
back?
he didn't actually. It just says go on. It says go on Chesterfield website. There's some pictures on there, but you'll see that the stadium's top draw. Do you know what I mean? It's brand new. It's top draw, and we're a club going places. He says, we'll win the league if I can get the players like you that I want. He said to me, we'll win the league, and he was confident. He said, I want to play the right way as well. I want to play attacking football, and he just knew what he wanted, and he sold it to me, and like I said, I just wanted to get sorted. I didn't want it rolling over at summer where I'm thinking, oh God, what am I going to get a club, or what's going to happen, or so I just wanted to get it sorted. Got it sorted, and then he just said, right, I'll see you in July for first day of pre-season.
Yeah, and did he speak to you at the time about what role he wanted you to play in the team?
Yeah, he kind of says, I know you're a box-to-box midfielder. He says, I know you like to get stuck in, keep it simple. And he said, that's what we're looking for. He says, we've got Mark Allett, we've got Derek Niven, and I want to add you to them to play centre midfield. He did mention Danny Whitaker as well, who I've played against. So I knew he was a good player, so I knew he was wanting to get him in. And he mentioned Craig Davis, which was a big one for me as well, because I played against Craig Davis when he was at Brighton, and I always thought he's a good player. So when he says to me, I'm getting Craig Davis as well, I thought, we'll have a real chance. And I already knew, people like Jack Lester and Drew Talbot and Ian Breckin and Robert Page. I knew they had a good squad anyway. So when he was saying to me he's adding these players to that, I thought, we've got a chance here.
Yeah. And what's it like on the first day at a new club? Is it like first day at school? You're like meeting loads of people for the first time.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like, to be honest. I think once you've been at a few clubs, you kind of just get used to it. And to be honest, a football club is a football club, and football is a footballer. So it's just pretty similar, no matter what club you go to. I mean, some squads are loud and full of banter, and some squads are a bit more quiet and just get on with the job. But basically footballers and football clubs are pretty much similar, to be honest.
Yeah. And what was the squad like? Was it a banter squad or was it a bit quieter? Because there's a few characters in there, but there was kind of a few players that, I don't know, watching as a fan, that were kind of looked like quieter.
I would say, some people might say different, but I would say we was a quieter squad. When I'd been at Walsall a couple of years, a year before, that was more of like a banter squad. There was always something going on around changing rooms, some kind of prank or some kind of laughs or whatever. Whereas I think that Chesterfield squad, you've got characters like Craig Davis and Jack and people like that. But I think 90% of that squad were quite quiet, like myself. Quite quiet, come into training, do the training, get the job done, go home. Come on a match day, get the job done. We'd have a few laughs, but it was more business, I felt, at Chesterfield. Not so much of this messing about all the time and doing this and doing that and focusing on the banter. We were kind of more focused on getting that result on a Saturday afternoon and then moving to the next game, really.
Yeah. And what was Sheridan and the rest of the coaching team like? Because obviously we've had a bit of an up and down time with John Sheridan. His first spell obviously gave us probably one of the best seasons we've had of recent times, and then in current spells it's gone less so well. He always looks like, when you're a fan watching in the stadium, he always looks a bit angry and a bit grumpy, but I imagine throughout the week he's probably a slightly different character, is he?
Yeah, I mean, now I'm on Twitter. I've only just joined Twitter about a year ago. I kind of see like some of the fans saying Sheridan this, Sheridan that, and they've got kind of, the Chesterfield fans anyway, have got a love-hate relationship with him, really. And I'd say that we're probably the same with some of the players as well. I think some of the players like me really got on with him and kind of understood him, and kind of, when he have a go at you, you kind of just put your hands up and say, yeah, fair enough or whatever. But then some other players would be like, why is he talking to me like that? And, why is he saying that? And the confidence would go, because they'd say that he's talking to him a bit derogatory, really. But personally, I always got on with Shez. I think he was a bit of a monger. He was a winner. He wanted to win. So if it was a five-a-side in training, or whether it was a game on a Saturday afternoon, or whether it was a golf game, whatever it was, he wanted to win. And if he didn't win, he was going to munch. And I'd say, you know, I was a bit of a muncher in training as well. So if I wasn't winning in training, I wanted to win every training session. And if I didn't, I'd be munching at my teammates. And I think he saw that, and I think he kind of liked it. So he got on, me and him always got on all right. And I think that's why he made the captain. But some of the other players, if you had an interview with some of the other players would say, oh, no, you know, he was always having a go at me, and he never gave me any praise, and, you know, and he spoke to me a bit bad, really. So it just probably depends who you ask. But personally, he was good as gold, you know, with me, and I've got nothing but I talk for him, really.
Yeah, and it must be funny throughout a playing career, because you'll be playing under managers that you probably don't have a similar character to, and some that you do. You just kind of get to learn how to cope with certain managers, because there must be some that come in and you think, oh, I don't like them, and others that you really get on well with.
Yeah. But I suppose that's just the same in any walk of life, really. You know, no matter what job you're doing, you might have a manager that you think, oh, I don't really like you. But then you might have another manager that you think, oh yeah, you know, I really enjoy working for you. But I think as a footballer, your job is to go and play football. So yeah, you might have some managers that you get on better than others. But first and foremost, you've got to look yourself in the mirror and say, am I giving my all for this club? These club and these fans are paying my wages. So no matter who the manager is, when I pull on that shirt, I've got to be giving 100%. I mean, at times there might be some things that you don't agree with, or, you know, or some tactics or whatever you don't agree with, but you've still got to be giving 100% when you go on that pitch.
Yeah.
I think that just goes down to personal pride, really.
And what would you say would be a typical John Sheridan training session?
Right, I'm trying to remember now. He liked lots of five-a-sides, because he'd join in, you see. So he loved to put on a five-a-side, because he couldn't run, but he still had a bit. Do you know what I mean? And he was probably still better than all us lot on the ball. But he loved a five-a-side. He loved to do practice games as well, where he could kind of stand and take the session and say, right, I want you to, when you get the ball here, I want you to do this here, or when you get the ball there, I want you to do this. So he was very hands-on, really. I would say, I know he had Tommy Wright as his assistant, but I would say, you know, Shez was very hands-on, and he wanted to do most of the training, really. But it was always short, sharp, and lots of, you know, passing and moving, which is what he wanted to see on a Saturday, and you could see it on a Saturday, especially in that season.
Yeah. So if we start with that, at the start of the season, then you actually have the accolade of being the first scorer of a league goal in that, or a competitive goal in that stadium. Were you kind of, I don't know, did everyone have odds on each other scoring the first goal before that start that match?
I don't think it was really spoke about, to be honest, but, you know, Craig Davis was very confident, so he probably thought he were going to be a bit first, or Jack Lester or someone like that. But I'd had a good goal scoring run in the pre-season, actually, to be honest, from what I remember. I think I'd scored maybe 3 or 4 in pre-season, in the pre-season game. So, and when Shez signed me, he said, you know, you're going to have the license to get forward. We've got Mark Hallett in there who likes to sit and just dictate the game. And then, you know, we've got Derek Niven, who's a bit like yourself. But if you've got the license to get forward and get yourself some goals. So that's what I did, really, to start off with. I got myself fit. And then, like I said, I saw the goal actually the other day. It was Craig Davis played it over the top to Drew Talbot, and then Drew Talbot played it back to me, and I just put it in bottom corner. So it was nice to start off with a goal. But like I said, I had been scoring in pre-season anyway, so it wasn't too much of a surprise to me, to be honest.
Yeah, and then I think you scored in then your first 3 games, I think, didn't you? Like League Cup against Middlesbrough, and then there was the next league game after that. So you started off really prolific in front of goal.
Well, yeah, because like I said, I went to Bury from Huddersfield, and I'd scored 7 before Christmas for Bury. So I kind of knew I had it in me to score goals. All it was is that at Walsall, he wanted his 2 centre midfielders to just sit in there and not go anywhere. not get forward, just sit in, win the ball, play it simple. So I've been playing that role for 2 years. So when Shez says to me, you've got the license to get forward, I kind of thought to myself, well, I can get a few goals here. I've done it before in this league from midfield. I can do it again. So, like I said, you just get yourself on a roll. And, I scored that one in the league, the first league goal at the B2 net. And then scored against Middlesbrough, like you just said, in the cup. And then scored against Port Vale. So, I think Craig Davis I think he was suspended at the time, and he was like, God, you're going to finish top goal scorer. And I've got it in my contract that if I finish top goal scorer, I get a bonus. So he said, you need to slow down.
So a really harsh red card, I think, in that first match.
Yeah, in the first game, didn't he? Yeah. So he was suspended. So when I got to 3 and he was still on 0, I think he was getting a bit worried.
Did John Sheridan give you a target for the season? For goals? Was he that kind of player or not?
No. He just give me the license to get forward. He said, as long as you can get back, you'll get forward and get us some goals. He was a very attacking-minded manager. So he wanted both his fullbacks getting forward. He wanted to play with out-and-out wingers. He wanted one of his centre midfielders to get forward. And then obviously you had your 2 strikers. So he was very all attack, really. So no, he never mentioned about how many goals he wanted me to score, but when I was scoring, he was just saying, you keep on doing what you're doing.
Yeah. And then it kind of started off, I mean, that whole season, really, it was, confidence must have been sky high from the start, because it just always seemed like the mentality was a winning mentality in that squad. What's it like when you're playing in a team that just feels like you're going to win every game?
Yeah, it's the best job in the world when you're winning football, because you just turn up, you've got confidence, and the thing is, we were scoring a lot of goals. I've been in teams before where you're looking around and you're thinking, where are we getting a goal from here today? We might get one if we're lucky, but we're never going to score 2 or 3. And it's hard work playing in a team like that. Whereas that team, goals were just coming from everywhere. I know Jack and Craig scored a lot of goals, but they were coming from the wings, they were coming from midfield, centre halves were chipping in with some. You just always felt like we could score at any time. And it was just the most enjoyable part of my career, to be honest, just playing in a team like that, where the fans are behind you. We'd made a good start. We were playing beautiful football. We could score at any moment. It's just the best job in the world when you're playing in a team like that, to be honest with you. You can't wait for the next game. You play every day if you could. And that's what it was like. It was just, training were good because we were winning, and Chez's training were very good and enjoyable. Everyone had a smile on their faces. The mood around the club were just everyone was just vibrant, really. So it was brilliant.
Do you ever feel tired when you're in a team like that? Because I imagine when you're in a losing team, it's quite easy to feel fatigue, but in a winning team, I'm guessing you don't ever feel tired.
No, you don't. Like you've just said, when you're winning, you play Saturday, you could play Sunday. All the aches and pains seem to go. All the injuries, seem to go. The fatigue seems to go. You just want to play. You just want to play and train all the time. But like you said, when you're struggling and you're down the bottom there, where I've been with Bury before, you feel all them aches and pains. You feel tired, and you feel, we've got a game on Tuesday. I could do with a rest. But when you're winning, there's no such thing as a rest. You just want to play. You just want to train. You just want to be around the boys and around the club, really, and that's what it's like.
And I suppose a lot of that goes over into the fans as well, because I know from watching Chesterfield when they've been in poor form, you're kind of expecting the first goal to go in against you from the first whistle, and alternatively, when you're winning, you're expecting to score within the first 10 minutes and get another good result. Like, how does that all? Do you feel that all coming from the stands?
Yeah, definitely. Because I've been at clubs like Bury where we were struggling. Like you say, we're conceding it first 10 minutes, and then fans start groaning and moaning, and you think you're on the pitch and you're thinking, oh, for God's sake, this is going to be hard work. But it was completely the opposite at Chesterfield. I don't know what it was like the season before, but that season the fans just seemed to be with us from the start. Even if we did go down, the fans would be cheering us on, and it just felt like, we had the backing of the fans. Every single player, so not just the favourite players, just every single player, even the young lads who would come on and help or whatever, everyone, the whole club just seemed to be backed by the fans. And I think that were a big reason why we did what we did in that season, just from the fans just staying with us, even when we weren't playing well, because we went through a patch where we weren't playing that well. But it just seemed like the fans just stuck with us, and that helped us massively in that season.
And then one match that I was kind of looking through the matches in that season, and one match that sticks out that the fans still talk about is that 5-5 at home against Crewe, where we were 4-1 down at half time. I think you played in that match, I think. What was that like, that 5-5?
Well, it was probably the most craziest game that I've ever played in my life, to be honest with you. A bit similar, like you said. I think we went 2 or 3-0 down in first 15 minutes, and we'd been flying before that. And I don't know if Crewe. I don't think Crewe were doing that well. I don't think they were up at top of the table, but you know what Crewe are like on the day. They can play some nice football, and they absolutely played us off the park for the first half, really. And I remember that game. I started in midfield, and they were playing little triangles in midfield, and we were all over the place. So we got in at half time, and we had a famous John Sheridan rollicking, really. He really got taught. He told us, and he said it's not good enough, and but he did say if there's one team you can come back against, it's Crewe Alexandra. He said you're 4-1 down, but he said there's one team that will crumble if you get a goal, it'll be Crewe. Because Crewe were known as a good footballing team, but a bit soft. He says, go out there. So he put me, I think he brought Ian Brecken off, and he put me back to centre half. And he brought on Craig Clay, I think, in midfield. So it was 4-1 at half time. So we're as lads, we're just saying to us, right, come on, let's just give it us all this second half. Even if we lose the game, come on, we're better than that. We've let the fans down. So it got to half time, and I think we got an early goal, so it made it 4-2. But when it went 4-2, you could see the Crewe players, all their heads went down. And then our fans really started getting behind us, and we thought, you know what, we can do this. So yeah, we got goal after goal and got it back to 4-all. But some of the players that we had, we was always capable of that anyway. And this is what I mean. We never felt like we was out of any game. Because when you've got players like Dean Morgan and Dean Smalley and Jack and Craig and players like that, you could be 5 down and still think you can get back into the game because they've got so much ability. You can just get back into the game, and that's what kind of happened. And we got back to 5-4, I think it was, last minute, wasn't it? And then Craig Clay, who's gone on to have a good, decent career actually. He popped up, but we weren't surprised because he'd been doing that a lot in training and in reserves. He'd kind of got himself as a reputation as like a young lad coming through who can score goals from midfield, and Chev's always liked him. So when that one went in, I think after the game, I think we kind of said to each other, you know what, we've got a real chance of doing something here, because if we can come back from 4-1 down at half time and draw 5-all, we've got a chance of getting promoted. Big chance, really.
And I remember, like, as a fan at that time, that was one of probably the most enjoyed. That probably felt more like a win than most wins felt that season, because you had come up against it and managed to come out with a point. Like, a lot of teams in that situation would kind of be looking at keeping it to 0-0 for the second half or something like that, and just getting a little bit of pride back. But I suppose it says a lot about that season that you actually went out thinking that you could still get something from the game.
Like I said, it all comes down to the players that you've got. Do you know what I mean? I've been in teams before where you're 4-1 down at half time and you're looking around and you're thinking, we've got no chance of getting back into this game. But with that squad, that team, you just kind of knew we've got some special players here with ability to score at any moment. So I think once we scored straight after half time, or pretty soon after half time, we kind of knew that we could get back into this game at any point, really.
And like, if you're in midfield and you play a bit in defence as well, like, you've probably got one of the best views on the pitch of those, of like Davis and Leicester kind of going at it up front. It must have just been. Did you ever kind of catch yourself just standing and just enjoying it?
Well, yeah, to be honest, I actually enjoy, in that season, I actually enjoyed playing at the back more than I did midfield. And the reason probably is because of what you've just said. You know, I want really a selfish player, really. Even in midfield, I'd get it, give it simple, and give it to like the players with ability, really. So when I was at the back, it was just a matter of kind of just, you know, staying concentrated and just kind of just watching kind of them guys go to work, really. And you got a lot of rest at the back in that team because you'd have Dean Morgan who would stay on the ball. You'd have Dean Smalley who would stay on the ball. Jack was very good staying on the ball, and Craig was very good at staying on the ball. So when they're staying on the ball and doing their bits of magic, you're getting a bit of a breather at the back. So it was just, I just really enjoyed playing at the back in that team. If it was a different team, I might not have enjoyed it as much, but in that team, I really enjoyed playing at the back and just kind of watching them guys, you know, go to work and score goals and do skills and entertain the crowd, really.
And was that, had you played centre half before that season?
That season for Chesterfield?
What, like before in your career?
Oh, in my career? No, I don't know. I don't know where Shez got it from, to be honest with you. Like you said, I'd started the season really well. I think I scored 3 and 4. And we went to Walsall in the Carabao Cup, I think it was. And we played Macclesfield the Saturday before. This was the Tuesday. And he just says to me, he says, oh, my centre-halves are injured. Going back to your old club, I'm going to make you captain. But I want you to just play centre-half. And I'm like, centre-half? I said, I've never played there before in my life. He says, yeah, but, you know, I've seen you. I think you can do a job there. Just do a job for me for 1 game. So I said, yeah, no problem, you know, no problem. So I played at the back in that Walsall game. But if you remember it, we played really well. Walsall were in League One and we played them off the park and beat them. I think it was 3-1. And our captain and I played at the back. And I played quite well. I did all right. But the Saturday after, I were expecting to go back into midfield. And he says, oh, you know, you played really well centre-half there, you know, I'm going to play you there again on Saturday. So me being me, I was like, you know, all right, I'll do whatever you think's best for the team. And then it just turned out that I stayed there really for the rest of the season. But it was just something that he must have saw in me, thinking, you know, he could play at the back, and it kind of worked out all right.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, like you're one of the leaders of that team, but then you're put into a position that's not necessarily comfortable to you. Are you taking a lot of direction from the guys that are alongside you? Are you expecting them to give you pointers, or did you feel quite comfortable?
Good question. Well, there was still Ian Brecken and Robert Page at the club. So when he put me there, and they kind of knew I hadn't played there before, even though there wasn't, this just shows how good guys they were, because even though they wasn't playing and they weren't in the squad most of the time, they'd still come over to me in training and give me little pointers and say, you know, do this and don't do that and do that. So they was a big help to me, to be honest with you. Not so much on the pitch on a Saturday, but more because they didn't play really, but more in training, they'd come and give me little tips. These are little things that fans don't see really, but yeah, they were helping me more than anybody. And then on a Saturday in the games, I was more playing with Simon Ford. And Ford is quite a quiet guy, so he kind of just let me kind of just get on with it really. So I just kind of just grew into the role, and after a couple of games, I just felt quite comfortable with it. I found it quite easy in that league, in League Two, playing at the back. So it wasn't a big thing for me really. I quite enjoyed it, to be honest. Did
you find yourself, like when you're watching live football on the TV, looking at what the defenders were doing and things like that, when you launch into a new position, do you find yourself researching when you're watching Match of the Day and things like that?
Yeah, well, what it is that I used to like Rio Ferdinand anyway. So when Shez put me to back, I thought, right, I'll watch a lot of Rio Ferdinand and see how he does things. And also what I used to do in training we used to play on a Friday, we used to play under 21, so anyone in the squad under 21 versus a five-a-side versus anyone over the age of 21. So obviously I've been in the team over 21s with Jack Lester and Craig Davis and people like that. It'd be all the young lads on the under 21s team. But what I did was I went and played in the under 21s, knowing that I'd come up against Jack Lester and Craig. So I felt to myself, if I can handle Jack Lester and Craig Davis in training and test myself against them, they're the best 2 strikers in the league. So when I come up against whoever it is on a Saturday, I've got that confidence to think I've handled them 2 in training, or I've done well against them 2, or I've tested myself against them 2. Then come on a Saturday, I can deal with any striker who I come up against, because they're not as good as them 2. So that's kind of what I did really. I just, any opportunity in training, I put myself up against Craig Davis and Jack Lester. And then, like I said, that built my confidence up to think, you're doing all right against them in training, you can do all right against anyone on a Saturday.
Yeah. And obviously, like, Jack Lester's a legend at the club. Was he as good in training as he was in real matches? You know, because it's just, I remember that season he scored a hat-trick against Stockport, which, like, one of the goals in the hat-trick, he just took on, it seemed like the whole team and scored. Like, what was it like in training, watching him?
I don't think Jack was the best of trainers, to be honest with you. No. I don't think he hardly ever used to train. I think at that time, I don't know how old he was, but he was coming to the end of his career. And him and Shez kind of had a pact where Jack didn't really train much. You know, he'd always be around and stuff, but he didn't train as much as us guys. And even if he did train, he wasn't training 100%. Probably because he knew he was saving himself for a Saturday, really. So from what I remember, Jack wasn't the best of trainers, but then on a Saturday, he'd do some things and you'd be like, wow, how's he done that? Probably one of the best players I've played with, to be honest with you. Even at that age, even when he was coming to the end of his career, he was phenomenal, really. But if you watched him in training, you probably wouldn't realise how good he was, to be honest.
Yeah, and then Craig Davis alongside him. Obviously, he just everything he hit seemed to go in that season. It was just ridiculous, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when he came in from Brighton, I already knew he was a good player because I played against him. I knew he was big and strong. But I don't think his goal scoring record was that good at that time. But he just came in and he hit the ground running, didn't he? He was always, when we were doing pre-season, he was always at the front in the running, which kind of surprised me really, because he's a big lad. On the opposite to Jack with the training, he was always the best player in training. Always wanted to win, always testing himself, always staying out extra and doing extra with, doing shooting practice, or extra with Shane, the fitness coach. He was always one to do extra. So when he had a season like that, it didn't really surprise me really, because like I said, his work ethic was probably the best work ethic in the club really. And there were other players in that squad who probably had maybe a bit more ability than him, but weren't working as hard as him. So when he got all that success, we were all happy for him, and he got his move to Barnsley and he's gone on to have a great career. We was all, really happy for him, because he's the hardest working player, in that squad, I would say.
Yeah.
I think as a player and as an experienced player, you kind of know when you're in something special. Do you know what I mean? So that Crew game was one where you're thinking, God, there's something special happening here. And there was a game at Accrington Stanley as well. And I think we were 2-0 down, and we played shocking, absolutely shocking. We were terrible. It was a cold afternoon. The pitch were rubbish, and we couldn't play our football like we wanted to play. And they just basically battered us. And if I remember rightly, we ended up drawing that game 2-2. We scored 2 goals in the last 5-10 minutes. And even after that game, the lads were sat down and were, there's something special happening here. How have we played so bad and managed to score 2 goals in the last 5 minutes and got away with a point? Do you know what I mean? And there's just certain things that happened in that season. They're 2 that I can remember off the top of my head, where you're looking around and thinking, this is special. And like I said, with yourselves, the fans, I think you guys could kind of tell, we've got a special team here. Let's enjoy it as much as we can, because we might not see this again for years to come. The kind of football we were playing and the togetherness of the club was just phenomenal, really.
And then you mentioned becoming like captain. So what? And you've obviously been captain before at clubs previous to when you were at Chesterfield. Like, what was your captain style? Did you have a style of being captain?
Yeah, I'd been captain at Walsall the season before, and I think Shez knew that. So when he asked me to play centre half when we played Walsall in the cup, he said, "I'm going to put you centre half, but you're going to be captain." So I think he felt like that was him kind of softening the blow of me having to play centre half by giving me captaincy. So what he did was we played really well in that game against Walsall. We battered Walsall, and I think he was quite superstitious, Shez. So I think he thought, right, I've put him centre half, I've put him captain, and we've had probably the best performance of the season so far. I'm just going to keep it the same. I'm going to keep him centre half and keep him captain. And I think that's kind of how it happened, really. I think it was more out of superstition from Shez's point of view rather than anything else, because I'm a quiet guy, really. I'm not really a big shouter, or I'm not loud in the dressing room or anything like that. So it was nothing to do with that. I think he very superstitious, and also I think in training he liked that. Every day in training I'd want to win, whether it a little five-a-side, whether it a run, whatever it was. I'd want to win, and I think he kind of saw a bit of him in me, and I think that's kind of what he liked. But it was nothing to do with me being a big shouter or being the loudest in the dressing room or anything like that, to be honest. It was just more of, like I said, he took a liking to me, and it was a bit superstitious, I think.
As captain, did you feel the need then to do that kind of final team talk before the team went out onto the pitch? Did you do that or not?
No, I didn't. No. I always felt like Jack was the real captain, to be honest. Jack Lester. So I don't know why he didn't give it Jack Lester, to be honest, because it was always Jack Lester that would be having, the team talks and say, come on, lads, we need to do this or we need to do that, or organising things like nights out and stuff like that. It was always Jack Lester. I never really, if I'm honest, I never really did anything like that. I was just more of a guy that came in, trained as hard as possible and went home, really. But no, it was more Jack Lester that did everything like that. Mark Haller is a bit like me. He was captain sometimes, but he was more of a lead by example on the pitch rather than being loud and organising things and having team talks and stuff like that. That was more Jack Lester's domain, and I think Jack Lester had done that since he was at Chesterfield. So it wasn't my job to come and take over from Jack Lester. I just leave Jack Lester to do all that, and I just kind of played my game on a Saturday. And I think Shed just kind of felt like I led by example in training and on a Saturday as well.
Yeah, and then kind of going into that, as we turned into the new year of that season, there was a couple of really pivotal games that I remembered. There was a win against Wycombe at home that I think took us like 7-9 points clear or something like that, and then there was the 5-0 against Rotherham, which came on as a sub in that game, I think. So you got to watch that Rotherham 5-0 from the bench. Like there was some really standout games, wasn't there, as Christmas had gone and the momentum was starting to go towards the end of that season.
Yeah, I mean, that Rotherham game, I think I'd missed a couple of games through injury, and I was just coming back from injury. And I'm sat on the bench and I'm watching the lads, and I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable football for League Two standard. We were playing like that night there. We were playing like a championship team, really. We'd have give any championship team a run for the money playing like that on that night. And then I remember I just watched it again a few months ago on the Chesterfield website. Actually, it was on there, and I watched it all again. And even the commentators were saying, for League Two football, we've never ever seen anything like this. And we were performing like that week in, week out, really. I think that was probably the best performance of the season. But some other performers weren't far off that, and we just had some top draw players for League Two, and I think that's the reason why we got them kind of performances, really. But yeah, the Wycombe game, you could go through them all. A lot of games in that season where you're thinking that performance there was way above League Two standard.
Yeah, and then going right to the end of that season, we had to wait until the last day of the season to actually confirm the title. It's a bit of a slip up, I think, against Bury, the home game previous to that. So yeah, it was a bit of a wait to get that title, wasn't it?
Yeah, the thing is with that season is we should have had that. I know we got promoted quite early, maybe 5 or 6 games to go, but we should have had the title locked off way before the last game. But so I don't know if a bit of pressure was getting to us, knowing that we're promoted, but we've been top of the league since Christmas. This title should have been sewn up a long time ago. Do you know what I mean? So I remember we played Bury. that was a really good game as well. I think that was 4-3 or something like that. Lost that, and then I think we were kind of thinking, oh, you know, we've done well to get promoted, but it'll feel like a bit of a letdown if we don't win the title after being so good all season. But like I said, it just shows the mark of the squad that we came in that last game with a bit of pressure on us, to be honest with you. Yeah, we'd been promoted, but we wanted to win the title. We'd been top since Christmas, you know. And it just shows the character in that squad that we played Gillingham, played them off the park, beat them 3-1. They were going for the playoffs, so they had something to play for as well. And I think it was just deserved. I think if we hadn't won the title that season, it would just been the biggest, you know, letdown in recent years, really.
Yeah.
So I think we've got what we fully deserved by winning the title, but it should have been done earlier, to be honest with you.
Promoted and now attempting to put the icing on the cake. A sellout crowd desperate to see Chesterfield bring home the silverware. After a goalless first half, Danny Whittaker got the party started by rounding Alan Julian to score. But their celebrations were cut short soon after, as Gillingham went in search of the points to keep their playoff hopes alive. Adebayo Akinfenwa's inch-perfect through ball sent Cody MacDonald on his way. The Gills' leading scorer eventually notching his 26th goal of the season, which looked as though it could be crucial. But the Kent club were level for just 9 minutes as the Spirites went for glory. Nobody tracked the run of Scott Griffiths, whose wicked cross was flicked in by Jack Lester. John Sheridan's men now just 14 minutes away from getting their hands on the trophy. But Gillingham's grip on the top 7 was slipping, and their season was finished by Dean Smalley, who made sure that Chesterfield would be crowned.
I mean, if you'd give us a choice, I think you probably would pick that choice. You know what I mean? Win the league on the final day of the season, full house, all your family's there, you know, and after celebrations on the pitch after the game like we did, you'd pick that. You probably would pick that choice. But it just felt like, you know, it were dragging on a little bit, and we kind of thought, oh God, you know, what if we don't win the title? But like I said, the character in that squad, not the loudest squad, not the big mouths and banter squad that you hear about, just an efficient squad with loads of with a lot of players with ability, really. And then Chev's giving them the license to go and do what they wanted to do. You know what I mean? There's a few players in that squad, you know, where some managers would have said, no, you're not doing that, and you're not doing that. But Chev just kind of just gave them the license to go and do whatever they wanted to do, and it just worked to a treat that season.
Yeah, and I think it was then you and Mark Allett, wasn't it, that kind of jointly lifted the trophy on the pitch. So it must be lovely when your family's there and you get to kind of have a little walk around on the pitch afterwards. What's it like winning the title?
Oh, it's, you know, apart from your kids being born and stuff like that, it's just the best feeling. And I were captain as well, and it just meant the world to me, really. And it still does now. And this is why I'm doing, you know, I'm having a chat with yourself today, because it's just good memories. I know it's nearly 10 years ago now, but it's just good memories. And I'll always remember the times that I had at Chesterfield. They'll never be forgotten. But yeah, I was captain. My mum were there, my dad were there, my son were there, my missus at the time were there. And my mum and dad have always supported me, you see, especially my dad. He's always been to all my games. So it was nice for him to see his son, you know, lift the trophy as captain, really. And like I said, me and Mark Allett did it together. I think he asked me, actually, I was going to do it on my own, because I think, you know, I'd been captain most of the season, but he asked me, he said, oh, can I do it with you? I said, yeah, come on, you get one end and I'll get the other end. So I said, after 3, we'll put it up. And that's what we did, really. But even sometimes now I go on YouTube and watch, I think there's the clips of the season and some of the goals. And so even sometimes now I go on and watch, and it always brings, you know, a smile to my face watching it, because it was just great times.
Yeah, and like, I suppose, I don't want to talk about it too much, but the season after kind of went a bit, it was a bit disappointing, wasn't it, after what had happened the season before? Never really hit the ground running, really.
Yeah. And
you kind of started off playing that season then, didn't you? But then was that when you then had the operation?
Yeah, what happened was, at the end of the season, we thought, right, we've won the league, we've played really good football. If we keep this squad together, we can go and give League One a good go. And I'd played in League One before, and a lot of the other players had played in League One before as well. And we all were of agreement, if we keep everyone together, we can go and have another good season. But what happened was Craig Davis got sold. He didn't get sold, he was out of contract, so he went to Barnsley. So we lost him. And I think that were a big thing for us. We never really replaced Craig. Jack had got a year older, he was getting a bit older. And Craig never got replaced. And I remember in pre-season, we're hearing rumours of players coming in. I think Clayton Donaldson was a rumour that he might come in, and a few others, and we were thinking, yeah, come on, get somebody. And we never did. And I think we went into that first game of the season against Tranmere of that season with a weaker team than what we'd had the season before. And I think it just kind of, we got off to a bad start and we never really recovered from that, really. I'd been having problems with my ankle, so I went and had an operation with that. And I think just going up a league and not replacing, one of your best players who scored 30 goals, just really, we never really recovered from it.
Yeah, and it's like a case again, isn't it? I was talking in the first episode with Jamie Hewitt last time out about momentum and how important it is to be playing with confidence and things like that. And I suppose when you start a season and you've got that feeling that maybe if as players you've got that feeling that maybe your squad's not as strong, then it's kind of not a great place to start.
Well, that was it. We had momentum in the season before, and then it kind of just it completely reversed itself in that season after a couple of, a bad start. And then, like I said, even centre halves, we were hoping to bring in a centre half, because I wasn't a centre half really. And I think I got away with it in League Two. But when I went to League One, I kind of felt this is different. These strikers are better, they're quicker, they've got better movement, and it's a lot harder. So I think even in the squad, we were thinking, you know what, if he gets, to keep what we've got, all right, Craig's gone to Barnsley, but if we replace him and then add maybe another 2 or 3 quality players on top of what we've already got, we'll do well. But it never happened until I think it was like middle of the season when they got Leon Clark and Neil Trotman and people like that in. But it just were a bit too late. We needed to get them type of players in at the start of the season and keep that momentum going. And like I said, like you said, the momentum got lost, and that's why we struggled that season.
Yeah, and then you ended up at Macclesfield, didn't you? But I think you only played like a game or two, didn't you? Was that a kind of an injury thing again?
Yeah, it was. So when I come back from the injury, Shez had brought in I think he brought in Dean Davis in midfield, Neil Trotman at the back, Leon Clark up front, and he brought in 4 or 5 players. And I wasn't getting in the team. They'd kind of picked up the form a little bit, and I couldn't get in the team. And it got to January, and he said, "Look, Dwayne, you're not really in my plans. You're not playing. You're playing at reserves, and you're at the age where really you need to be playing." And I agreed with him. Do you know what I mean? I'd come in, I'd done the job that he brought me in to do to get us into League One. I wasn't really playing. I was 30 years old, 31 years old. I needed to be playing really. So so it came about that. Macclesfield were interested. My mate Nat Brown were playing at Macclesfield, and he said, we want to take you till end of season. So I said, right, I'll have a word with Shez then and see if we can get something sorted. So I went to see Shez. Shez said, yeah, it'd be good for you to get playing again. We sorted out a settlement package on my contract, and then I went and signed for Macclesfield on the Monday. So on the Tuesday, we had a game down at Wimbledon, and he put me straight in, played that game, actually scored on my debut. It's got to about the 70th minute, and I'm knackered because I haven't played for a while. So I'm signaling over to the manager, I'm saying, bring me off. And he's gone, yeah, I'll bring you off. Then I've got into this tackle with this lad, and really bad tackle. And then my foot's got stuck in the ground as well. So I've actually broke my ankle in 2 places and ruptured all the ligaments. And I've never seen an ankle as bad. It was swollen I don't know what. It was just really swollen. I knew it was really bad. And I'd only signed for Macclesfield till the end of the season. So I went to see specialists and stuff like that. And they said, yeah, you broke your ankle, you've ruptured all your tendons and your ligaments and stuff like that. You're going to be out for at least 6 to 8 months. So I played one game for Macclesfield and got injured in that, scored and then got injured. And then we're out of contract. So, you know, it was just a bit of a bad time, really. So got to the end of the season. Obviously, Macclesfield released me because I was injured. But then I had no club or doctors to do any rehabilitation with my ankle. And it still didn't feel right anyway. So it was then the time to think, you know what, you've got to 31 now, you've had a good career. It's probably time to start thinking about, you know, retiring and doing something else.
Yeah, and it must be really, really difficult because, I mean, you probably had another 5 years or so in you, I suppose. If you'd have not had that injury, like, as players, do you get the right amount of support from places like the PFA and places like that? Because it just seems really harsh that you have that career and you're still quite young, and then your career's kind of almost ended just because of a tackle. Must be really hard.
I mean, the PFA, I never heard from the PFA at all. All they did for me was they said, right, your pension's due at 35, but what we can do is give you that pension now at 31 so we can bring it early for you, because obviously you're not able to play anymore. But as for like the mental side of things, or helping me get a job, or helping me get a new club or anything like that, it was a bit non-existent, to be honest with you. But the mindset I had in my career is that anything like that could have happened at any time anyway. So that could have happened at 21 or 26 or 28. So when it happened at 31, I'd already put kind of procedures in place, so that if anything like that did happen, then, you know, I'd be all right for a year or two before I got myself, you know, sorted out. So it happened, but, you know, like I said, I'd already put in place things that that could happen anyway at any time.
Yeah. And what's life been like post football? You must still look back on those days and feel really proud of everything that you achieved, because you played quite a lot of games for those kind of 3 or 4, 5 clubs that you played for. You must be really proud of everything you've achieved.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I mean, like you said, when you're playing football, you kind of take it for granted, to be honest with you. You start training at 10:30, and if you're playing for a manager like Shez, you're done by 12. So you're done by 12, get home, get back to the club, have a shower, have a bit to eat. By 1 o'clock, 1:30, you're back home. You know what I mean? So you kind of get used to that lifestyle. And then when you come out of football and you've got to go and do a 9 to 5, or you've got to do shift work, you're kind of like, wow, what's this? I'm not used to working 8-hour shifts and 9-hour shifts and doing shift work and stuff like that. So it is a bit of an eye-opener, really. But all I'd say to footballers, you know, now just enjoy it as much as you can, because you're never going to get a better job than getting paid for doing something that you love, really. So yeah, I look back on my career and, you know, I'm happy with how it went. I think there's some players out there that look back on the career and think, oh, they could have done more, or they could have done better. But I always look back on my career and think I got the best out of whatever ability I had. Do you know what I mean? I played in every league apart from the Premiership, and I got the best out of myself, and that's all you can ask for, really. And I'm just grateful that I had the opportunity to play professional football for 12, 13 years, however long it was.